everybody, it's Christina of CraftyPaws. Welcome to the Mason Jar Love Affair YouTube hop with lots of giveaways. These are my projects for this YouTube hop. Rather than using mason jars though, I kind of cheated and used baby food jars that I had in my stash. I didn't want to go out and spend more money, and I thought upcycling would be a great way to approach this project. But I think you guys will get the idea how this can be modified to use for larger mason jars. Basically, I created shabby chic kind of flower bud vases or votive holders. You could use them for either. And I'm going to share with you guys the process of how I created these for a little table arrangement. So first what I did was I colored up some of the images from the Winnie and Walter Doggone Cute stamp set. Here are 3 of the dogs that I thought I could color up to look like my sweet bandito. I also stamped out a couple of, accessories, but I didn't end up using those, and I ended up using one more dog from this stamp set. I think stamping this out with a Desert Storm Memento ink rather than a Tuxedo Black, and then outlining the nose and the eyes with a Copic multi-liner pen. This is a 0.1 point, and that kind of redefines the nose and the eyes so that they don't get lost when I'm doing my Copic coloring. So first, I'm going to use kind of a pale pink for the underside of the belly, inside of the ears, and that's the E000. Then I'm going in and coloring up the areas that I think are white on the puppies to make them look like my bandito. And I'm using E40 and W2. I end up actually also adding a W3, but basically I'm covering the top of the head, under the chin, base of the legs, base of the body, and then now I'm going in with a slightly darker area where the cast shadows would be with a W2, under the ears, under the muzzle where the mouth is, and at the top of the head he has kind of a tuft of white hair. So I'm coloring that in too. Now I'm going in and laying down the groundwork for where the brown patches are. And I thought I would first mark them in with the E11. This is kind of a mid-tone brown with an orangey undertone. And that's actually a very close proximity to the lighter areas of bandito. Then I'm going in and marking in where the mid-tone is slightly darker, where the ear meets the head, where the eyes are inset, underneath where the white tuft of hair at the top of his head would cast a shadow, the bottoms of the ears, and the back where he has a spot. Then I'm going back in and I'm going to layer in one more color, a darker brown. This is an E15, and I'm going back in and kind of re-emphasizing where the darkest shadows would be. I actually go even a shade darker with an E18, but at this point I'm not sure how dark I want to make it, but I'm going back in and blending out with an E13 and back to the E11 as well. Now you see me coloring in the darker shade again. This is the E15, reestablishing the dark areas because of that blending. And I'm going back in and shading in where the W2 is. And the white areas are looking pretty dark here, but as the ink dries and as I put in finer details with this Prismacolor white colored pencil, you'll get a real sense of the texture of his fur and also the lightening of the white areas. I had a little stray mark there that I just kind of scratched off with my fingernail, and now I'm going back in and making sure that all the white areas really do read as white. I'm going to color up one more puppy for you on camera. I'm going back in and coloring in the white areas. Again, this is reading very dark on camera, even in real life, but as the ink dries, it will get lighter and lighter. I'm using the W2 and a W3 where the white areas would be the darkest. I'm using that W3 under the muzzle where the front legs would cast a shadow under the belly. So you can see that with that W3, I get a real good sense of dimension. And I know sometimes it's scary to add a darker color like that, especially to white areas, but You know that with a white color pencil at the end, or even like a white gel pen, this can really lighten up a lot. And once you get in the other colors, this will read much more pale. Now I'm going back in and coloring in the brown areas, the brown patches with that base of E11. And I wanted to try and get the sense of wispy fur on the inside of his ears as well. Oh, and I forgot to color in that white tuft of hair at the top of his head. So I went back in with that W2 and W3 there. I'm going back in and adding in some more shadowed areas with that W3. And now I'm going in with a W13, I'm sorry, an E13 to get darker brown areas into the brown patches of his fur, and blending back out, going in again darker with an E15. And while I'm trying to make a set here, so I'm using the same colors. Obviously, if you're coloring different dogs, or even if you wanted to have, darker areas versus lighter areas in one dog versus another, it's just a matter of going in with more of the darker shades or blending out less with the lighter shades. When you color in with light colors, it pushes the darker ink. So I like to go always back in at the end and reestablish the darker areas with the darker E15 and E18. Now I'm doing the highlights again with that white Prismacolor color pencil. The key to adding this kind of texture with a color pencil over top, I think it really adds great texture, and it also helps blend out some of those kind of areas where I might have been a little heavy-handed with the darker Copic markers. And I love that adding that little texture, and it really hides a multitude of sins. Now for the first little jar, I decided I was going to just dig into my stash and use some eyelet trim, some lace. So for here I'm just using an old vintage eyelet trim, and then I'm taking some burlap ribbon. It's wire edged ribbon, but if you don't have that, I'll show you later how you can just use plain burlap fabric. I'm just using a hot glue gun to put that into place. I'm just cutting off a little bit of the excess. I did want it to fully overlap, and that's all going to be hidden with that doily there that I just gave you a sneak peek of. And then I'm trimming the bottom with a little crocheted lace, and you'll see how I use this lace a little bit differently later, but I thought this would be a nice little border with the kind of frilly parts pointing up and creating a sharp bottom edge at the bottom, and I'm just gluing that in place. And you see that kind of waxy paper that I use to catch my drips? I'm also using that sometimes to save my fingers when I want to secure a piece of ribbon or burlap or whatever onto the jar without burning my fingers. It's kind of a repellent paper that came as part of the packaging for I think like my ATG gun refills. So this little doily I thought was so pretty, and that's one of the continuity pieces for this little set. I'm going to add this kind of intricate doily on each one of these jars. This next piece of burlap has some white polka dots on it, and I've had this in my stash for years, and I absolutely love it. I think it's so whimsical, and I thought it would be a good backdrop for the dog image. And here you see me using that crocheted lace facing the opposite direction. So the trim, the frilly parts are facing up, with the sharp straight side edging the burlap ribbon. And I'm just going to cut off the excess and secure that last little bit in place with hot glue and tap that into place. And then I thought I could use the same thing on the bottom, and this time facing the frilly parts down so that it perfectly kind of frames the entire burlap, polka dotted burlap ribbon all around the jar. And by the way, because the burlap is kind of a loose weave, if I wanted to use this as a votive holder, I think little bits of the light would also shine through. But if I just wanted to use it for a little bud vase, I think it would give enough coverage so that I wouldn't see the stems necessarily of the little flowers I'm going to put in. And I'm just tapping in again that doily and adding the puppy that's laying on its back waiting for a belly rub. I think that's so cute. The next jar I'm going to be decorating with a ribbon that has kind of this open weave through the middle. And if you ever see ribbon like this, it's a great ribbon to be able to customize. So you can loop through ribbon like this with any color satin ribbon, even if it doesn't fit exactly. I actually like the dimension added by the satin ribbon that's a little bit wider. And in this jar, I'm going to use a different burlap ribbon. This is also wire rimmed, that has a chevron pattern to it, and it's a little bit thinner, but I think it's perfect for this. And I'm going to add this woven lace with a satin ribbon all around the middle of this chevron. And actually that kind of camouflages the chevron, but it looks more modern, I think, with kind of a stripy look rather than a chevron look. And I'm going to add the same crocheted lace along the top and bottom of this jar as well. So all the jars are going to be slightly different, but coordinating with one another. And I think as a set, they'll read really well together. Not super matchy-matchy, but not totally different from each other as well. I'm going to add another crochet doily, and I'm adding that doily right where the seam is, so it camouflages all of the sins of crooked seams and things like that. And this is the puppy that's running, jumping through the air. The last jar I'm going to cover with a piece of burlap fabric. I wanted this to be plain and actually have frayed edges, so you see me pulling out the threads, and this has an even more open weave, but I wanted this one a little plainer because of the lace that I'm planning to use over top. This is another one of those ribbons that has two sides, so the top and the bottom are equal and there's not just one straight edge. And this time I'm weaving through the center hole areas a rosette trim that I thought would be so pretty and great as an accent around this jar. And I'm going to just glue that into place right in the middle with enough of the burlap fabric showing on the top and the bottom. I love that combination of really frilly lace with the kind of coarse burlap. I love that kind of country farmhouse look. And that's the last little puppy sitting upright. And these are the prizes that I'm going to be giving away. For those of you who give this video a thumbs up and leave a kind comment below, I'm going to have a drawing 1 week from today. So you have 1 week to enter. Just say enter me and leave a nice comment. That's it. Now, I hope you guys will get a chance to watch all of the other YouTubers that are part of this Mason Jar Love Affair YouTube hop. They are Tina, tell him thank you, here on YouTube, who's the host, Amador Craft and Kits, Jill Norwood, VL Ballin 1, who's Veronica, Ginger Panna, and Marilyn G. I'm going to have links to all of their channels in the description box below, so go hop along. A lot of us will be giving away great prizes, and it's really easy to play along, and I hope you get inspired by all the projects that we're sharing. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys are having a wonderful crafty day.